Hello, guys. So we are live now, and we are here with Alex Svanevik, who is co-founder of Nansen and CEO of Nansen, one of the leading blockchain and analytics tool platform, which helps to find you insights about different tokens and NFTs. So great to have you here, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we had Alex before as well on our YouTube channel. We first met in March 2022 at Avalanche Blockchain Conference in Barcelona. So you can find as well our previous interview on White Crypto YouTube channel. And so much happened since that time. We had quite a bull market for altcoins in 2022, and then so much stuff happened. Terra Luna collapse, FTX collapse, and so on. So we'll talk more what happened with Nansen and the market since that time and what's next. And as well, another thing that we see now currently quite a hype around AI. And you have your website called nansen.eth, and as well, you have a degree in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So can you tell more? How do you see the intersection of crypto blockchain and AI? And as well, how do you implement AI in Nansen?
Yeah, I think today the way I would approach that question is really to start with the premise that any software company has to think about AI and not just think about it, but actually act on it. So that means the way you approach AI from an organizational productivity perspective is very important, meaning you need to make sure that everyone in your company is basically using AI, which is kind of obvious to some of us who are like early adopters and tech enthusiasts, but it actually requires a bit of effort and focus to make sure that everyone just knows how to get the most use of tools like ChatGPT. So one thing is the organizational productivity bit, and then the other one is all of the product innovation that you can do with new AI enhanced features, right? So in the context of Nansen, I think there are kind of two main areas here. The first one is you can create radically better user experiences and the way you interface with data. So the way I think about this is that over time, I think Nansen is going to be more of a flexible and kind of responsive user experience where you might be even speaking with data to some extent, right? Instead of you being served very static charts and tables and so on, you might have a more immersive user experience because you can actually speak in natural language with data and analytics. But of course, that needs to be a user experience that is engaging and that is effective and fast. So, that's one part of AI in terms of product for Nonsense specifically. And the other part is around building out a really solid data moat. So one thing that people know Nonsense for is that we're very good at labeling wallets. And of course, that needs to be enhanced with AI technology. There's a lot of stuff we can do now in an automated manner, or either fully automated or semi-automated. I think that mostly you need a human in the loop in many instances, but you can kind of 100x or 1000x your own productivity if you have AI. So that's specifically for nonsense. I think specific more broadly for crypto, probably, there's going to be an interesting intersection around using blockchains to perhaps verify and prove the authenticity of certain things because blockchains are naturally very good at dealing with scarce stuff, right? So making sure that there's only one instance of something or the provenance of anything is accurate. Whereas with AI, the opposite is the case, right? Like with AI, you can kind of create an infinite amount of content. You can produce fake content and so on and so forth. So there's an interesting intersection there where I think maybe blockchains can help solve some of the issues that arise in generative AI. But yeah, I mean, this is a super interesting area, and I think just anyone who runs a software company needs to be spending quite a lot of time to make sure that they have an AI strategy for whatever they're doing.
And what do you mean that blockchain can solve some problems with generative AI? Do you mean like authorizing the authorship or something like that, or in which way?
Yeah, yeah, for example, and then you can ins I don't know exactly what it would look like. It is kind of a more of an abstract idea, but I would imagine that if you can prove that something has been created in a certain way and that proof resides on a blockchain, then it is harder to tamper with. And maybe there are ways to ensure that you don't get kind of infinite clones or variations of some content because um, you have this immutable history of transactions and also maybe even incentives that prevent you from just creating infinite content. So it's I don't have a very clear idea of exactly what it would look like, but yeah, proving ownership and proving authenticity and also uh, trying to combat spam because you could, for example, charge for the creation of some forms of content, whether that's for marketing purposes or whatever it is. So I do think like there is something there where like AI allows you to produce almost infinite content at a marginal cost of almost zero, whereas blockchains kind of have a way to prove scarcity. And so there is something there to figure out, and perhaps you can use blockchains in this area. But I don't know exactly what it will look like. I do think someone's going to create some kind of projects in this space that hopefully will help humanity and like um, proving identity and so on. I think also makes sense to use blockchains for sure.
Yeah, as for proving identity, I agree with you, and that's quite a problem in blockchain with many bots flooding the chains.
Yeah,
And as well,
exactly.
here you released Nansen version 2. So can you tell more what's changed and as well what are enhanced implementation of AI in Nansen 2?
Yeah. So Nansen really, it's first of all a complete overhaul of the tech stack behind Nansen. So that means speed is basically a very important factor in Nansen 2. It just loads way faster, 100 times faster in some cases. And it's important for users who, most of our users of Nansen 2 are investors or traders, right? So they want to make sure that they can get alpha. And with Nansen 2, the time to alpha has been shortened because speed is one of the focus areas. So everything loads faster, but you can also navigate to the right content much faster with our search bar. In Nansen 1, many users got confused because of the navigation. Now you just have to go to Command K or click on the search bar. You can write in anything you want, an entity name like Binance, a token symbol, an NFT name, a wallet address, whatever it is, and then we'll take you to the appropriate place in the app so that you can get the best insights on whatever that thing is. So that's kind of just the speed. Going from A to B, from question to answer is much faster. The second part is we have some new innovative features that many of our users really love. The first one is signals, which is a feed of anything that is out of the ordinary happening on chain because there's so much stuff happening on chain. There's so much noise. So we've created a curated feed with stuff that you probably should know about. So this could be a token that has lots of tokens coming into an exchange, which might suggest that someone's going to sell them. It could be a token where you see smart money addresses accumulating it, and so on and so forth. So these are events. You can think of them almost like a Twitter feed, but everything comes from on-chain data, and we use AI to surface what are the interesting stuff that you should care about. Another example of an innovative feature that's new is something called smart segments. And so previously, like I said before, many people know Nansen for labeling addresses. And what we realized is that we don't want to be the bottleneck to label addresses. We want to make sure that our users can create their own labels. But it's quite tedious to do this manually. And so we created smart segments, which allows you to effectively just set some filters. You can say, I want to see all the addresses that have made at least 50 ETH trading Bored Apes, or I want to see every holder of this tokenized US Treasury bill, or whatever other criteria you have, and we allow you to save that as a smart segment, so a group of wallets. And that group you can profile, you can see what else are they doing, you can set alerts to it, you can use it as a filter in existing tables and dashboards, and it really just makes the whole user experience much more customized and personalized. So that takes us to the third point, which is that the whole product is way more personalized. And our philosophy here is effectively that as you get more and more chains, you get more and more assets that are tokenized, you probably don't want to see exactly the same thing as everyone else in crypto. We think that being able to show you stuff that is relevant and personalized to you individually as an investor based on your investment strategy and what you care about, we're gonna highlight the stuff that matters to you. So smart segments is an example of that. We're also bringing portfolio tracking into Nansen 2, which is super cool. It means that you can track your portfolio across 45 different blockchains and also do your alpha hunting and your analytics in the same place. And then we have custom dashboards that you can build too. So there's a ton of new things basically in Nansen 2. I think many people will have tried Nansen 1 and it was very valuable, but they had issues with the speed. It was too slow. You couldn't personalize and customize it enough. And we, frankly, were getting a little bit slow in shipping new features because our code base was difficult to work with. But all of these things we have fixed in Nansen 2. And so I'm really bullish on, how we're going to be able to help investors surface the signal so that they become winners going forward.
Yeah, that's cool. And now we some kind of see the returning of the bull market, at least for Bitcoin, and some beginning for the altcoin season too. So what does on-chain analytics data say to you, and how do you see the development of market after approval of Bitcoin spot ETF and etc.?
Yeah, you are definitely seeing very promising signs of capital coming back into crypto. One metric that I monitor is simply how many stable coins do you have on exchanges? Because this is a good indicator that people are filling up their ammunition so that they can buy crypto. And this is an interesting metric that we've seen go up. It was going down for a long time, right? During the bear market, people would withdraw stablecoins from exchanges, and sometimes they would just redeem the stablecoins to go to dollars and then put maybe the money into a completely different asset class, like US Treasury bills for 5% yields and so on. That trend is now clearly reversed since around November last year. And so you've seen stablecoin balances on exchanges start going up again. Interestingly, this is correlated pretty well with the price of Bitcoin. And so I think it's a fairly good indicator that there is just more capital coming into crypto. So that's one thing that we've looked at. You also just generally see more activity and engagement, sometimes in other kind of new chain ecosystems, right? So you see a lot of activity with Arbitrum, you see a lot of activity with Solana, you see Base now with which is Coinbase's L2, and it seems pretty clear to me that the infrastructure and the technology we have now is much better suited to deal with a much larger pool of investors coming in. Another area that's a bit related to the stablecoin area is the supply of tokenized T-bills. That's also been going up. Mountain Protocol, I think, is the leader now in terms of the total amount of T-bills or US dollar based denoted T-bills in circulation. They've been growing very rapidly, and they have interesting kind of incentive dynamics with an L2 and so on. So, and then maybe the last area where I don't think you've seen that much on-chain activity in terms of the actual underlying assets, but Web3 gaming, we're really at the cusp of that with some really incredible games that are literally coming out in alpha and beta in the next weeks and months. And so you're seeing some of those tokens associated with Web3 games start rallying price wise. So generally, I think there's a lot of promising signs for a strong market for crypto going forward. And just the fact that we've made it through such a difficult period over 2022 and 23, of course, like I never doubted that we would get through it, but it is good to see that we've managed to get through that, and with so many scandals and disasters hit the space, and thankfully many of us were able to get through it.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell us how Nansen helped some of your customers to navigate the scene when we saw all these collapses, how on-chain
Yeah,
data
so
could help to
yeah,
prevent such events.
yeah, I mean, we have a lot of anecdotes from this. Like we had one DeFi fund that had, I think they had hundreds of millions of dollars in UST, which was sitting in, there's a wrapped UST sitting in curve pools, and they had set up smart alerts with Nansen, and they were notified of when liquidity providers started pulling funds from curve. So they were notified very early, and they say, hey, there's something going on here. Let's just withdraw our capital from this curve pool and get out, because we don't want to have exposure to something that might be in trouble. And because they did that early, they were able to save tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from their fund just for that, but you know, through doing that. So that's one very direct example. Like sometimes people think of Nansen as a product that only is geared towards like discovering new tokens and making money on the upside. But people also have used it to defend their portfolios, like in this example. Um, and then, I do think generally uh, during a kind of bear market and a recovery, there is this time period where interesting tokens start popping, even if the total crypto market has not yet perhaps recovered fully. And so in 2023, you had several examples of Nansen users who were able to spot tokens early on, and of course make a decent amount of money doing that. Now, just to be very clear, you of course can't guarantee that every Nansen user will be able to do that, but there are plenty of stories of users and customers who've managed to succeed with their investing through discoveries they make with Nansen.
And what about the times during the bear market? Did you see the drop of the numbers of the users of Nansen? And do you see the coming back of the customers now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Nansen is was somewhat prepared for this, in the sense that initially our whole company was oriented around investors only. But we also knew that crypto moves in cycles, and so we needed to prepare to make sure that when the bear market comes, we're not going to just lose all our customers and all our revenues goes to practically zero. So we've also built out an ecosystem offering. And the ecosystem offering focuses on helping crypto teams, so the builders, right? And the top chain teams, the top exchange teams, stablecoin issuers, and so on, they are now customers of Nansen. And this segment is kind of less cyclical, right? Even if there's a bear market, these companies are still going to be around. They still need help with great data and analytics for whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's running a chain, building out a chain, or running an exchange. And so we've seen growth in that segment, even throughout the whole bear market, which is great. But the investor segment, yes, we have experienced, not we grew extremely fast in 2021 on the way up. And it's been harder for sure with the investor segment, as you can imagine, because their portfolios have shrunk. Many of them, frankly, lost all of their money in FTX or in Terra and so on. So it's been a harder market to serve investors. But like I said earlier, interestingly, you know, it, at the end of last year, you started seeing the growth numbers really start picking up again. And, at this point, it's great because we have those two parts of our business built out, both the ecosystem division that focuses on crypto teams and also Nansen 2, which focuses on the investor segment. And so you can also see in our user numbers that, things are starting to recover on that front with the investors as well, since I would say late last year in particular.
So is retail back, in your opinion, or not really to that extent?
I mean, I definitely not fully, right? Because when they are fully back, it will be the peak of the next bull market, and I don't think we're there yet by any means. Um, in our experience, I think what we're seeing is that a lot of the more kind of serious investors, people who in past cycles have made a lot of money, but they understand that crypto is cyclical and maybe took a little bit of a break, a lot of those people started coming back late 2023. And so I think we are still at the point where it's mostly the kind of hardcore crypto investors that are very active now and getting increasingly more active again after a little bit of a break over the bear market. I don't think we are anywhere near a full scale kind of retail is back type situation. I think probably one of the catalysts for that will be Web3 gaming. It seems likely that you'll start getting a huge amount of inflow of retail investors through Web3 gaming. Also, some of the social fi stuff that's happening where you don't need to kind of self custody, or rather, you don't need to deal with seed phrases and things like that because many of these apps have wallets built into them. Again, because we have better infrastructure now. That could be also, a catalyst for growth. It's interesting to see what's happening with Farcaster. We know Friendtech, of course, was very big a little while back, but I think Farcaster is probably the most interesting that's happening right now. So yeah, you have many different catalysts there. I would also say, going back to tokenized T-bills and the ETFs, that's kind of catering to the more TradFi kind of institutional interest, right? So you could have a double whammy here where you have the ETFs. You'll probably get an Ethereum ETF this year as well. That's going to be super interesting, in particular because of ETH staking and yields. And then you have, tokenized T-bills as well. So you have kind of products and infrastructure now that cater to both, retail, as we were talking about earlier, but also to institutional players. And so it is kind of interesting how this is lining up more or less on the same timeline. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a really strong, bull market that starts kicking off later this year.
Yeah, and even during our previous interview in 2022, you told that you plan to integrate somehow social-fi, decentralized social media into Nonsense. So have you done anything in that direction? And as well, I thought as well, you recently just registered on Farcaster. So how is your experience going with it?
Yeah, on that first question, I guess we were a little bit too early on the starting with what you might call social fi, because we created a product called Nansen Connect, which effectively was like chat rooms, almost like Discord style chat rooms for wallet addresses. So you would log in with your wallet address, and then you would speak with other wallet addresses effectively through chat rooms. For a variety of reasons, we didn't really pursue that product anymore, and we just put it on hold. I guess this was in early 2022, it might have been. And we decided to go back to focusing on what Nansen is uniquely good at, which is to surface the signal for both investors and crypto teams. And so this became a bit of a distraction for us in terms of product development. But it is cool to see how this area has flourished, in the say 18 months after we released that. Maybe it's something we'll pick up again in the future when we have a bit more bandwidth. I'm not sure. But on the Farcaster side of things, yes, I've started to experiment a little bit with it. I wouldn't say I'm very active on it yet, but it is a pretty cool product, and I think it makes a lot of sense that now, going back to the AI point earlier, now that it's like easier and easier to just generate content, you may want to find ways to somehow kind of verify your identity and tie it back to a wallet of sorts. Um, and so, yeah, it is cool. I haven't spent a ton of time on it yet, but I'll probably play around with it in the next weeks.
Yeah, and as well, you talking about retail, we see some coming back of retail with the meme coins, and especially I think in the end of November, December, we saw quite a hype of some meme coins, especially on Solana, like Bon, Canelus, Dog with Hats. Some other ecosystems started making their own meme coins, like Avalanche has Coquino, some meme coins on Ejective, Aptos, and so on. Do you track as well meme coins on-chain data and who they invest?
Yeah. So Nansen has all the data on all the meme coins, right? So we have all the data for people who want to look at that. I will admit that I personally have not been super immersed in the meme coin area. Probably I've missed out on a lot of good trades for that reason. But yeah, I do think it is cool. This does feel to me like one of the areas where crypto and blockchains really have product market fit, which is kind of, if we generalize it a bit further to like cultural assets or culture assets, and then I would include things like NFTs or profile pics and stuff like that, with pudgy penguins, crypto punks, bored apes, etc. These are all examples of kind of culture assets, right? They don't serve any purpose in terms of utility. They are just community assets and kind of cultural artifacts that people sort of create value around. And it should be taken seriously in the sense that like a lot of people are very interested in it and they have a lot of fun with it. So I think it's cool. I haven't personally spent a ton of time looking at meme coins myself, but the good thing is in Nonsen we have literally all the data for it if people want to study it on chain. So yeah, I know that some of our research analysts are a bit deeper into meme coins than I am personally.
And what about NFTs? Do you see the coming back interest? And did you buy any NFTs during the bear market? I remember you were telling that you minted 40 Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs and then all too early. Did you buy back
Yes,
any
yes.
during drop?
I didn't buy back any bored apes. I did buy more pudgy penguins. And I think I probably bought some rods and some little pudgies as well. I think I gave away a few little pudgies to, and even a big pudgy to someone in our team at Nansen. And I bought a few other. I like to buy cute NFTs. So I recently bought Mochimons on base. I feel like cute is great fundamentals. It's like universal. If people find the NFTs cute, then they will have some kind of appeal, which is one of the investment theses for it's part of the investment thesis for Pudgy Penguins too when I bought that, as well as Axie Infinity. So I have bought Mochimons. I also bought Cypher NFTs because I think the game is incredible. I've played that Web3 game a lot, actually. I played it
Cypher or how is
uh, Cypher, Sipher. And it is like, if you just forget that it's a Web3 game, it doesn't matter. Like you just play it and it's super fun. It's a very deep game. It's a surprisingly deep game. It's a mobile game, but you can customize your characters, you can level up, you know, um, you can equip your characters with lots of different items, and the items themselves can be leveled up. And yeah, it's just a really deep game. It's surprising. So I invested in the seed round for this project, and it was not a huge amount of money, but this is one of the projects where when it was a bear market, and I got the chance to try the game, it seemed like a no-brainer to just increase my position in the project. That is not investment advice. None of the stuff I say is investment advice, of course, or financial advice. But this is truly one of the games that I think is gonna do very well this cycle. Um, they have both a token and then they also have their own NFTs. So I was buying a bunch of the NFTs. Yeah, so those are some that I've been looking at. I do think it's interesting to look at NFTs at other chains because so far most of the highest value NFTs are on Ethereum, of course. So there is kind of a almost like a luxury feel of Ethereum as a chain. I will also admit that I completely kind of slept on most of the Bitcoin NFTs, so I've not really spent any time on it. It's still not clear to me if that's something that's going to last, but hopefully it will. So yeah, that's what I've been doing on the NFT front.
Yeah, I should check out that game you mentioned. And as well, maybe you can share some of your altcoin picks. What altcoins do you see potential?
Yeah, I mean, so Cypher would be one example. I bought Pendle pretty early in the bear market. Unfortunately, sold some of it too early as well, but I still have a position in Pendle, which has been doing super well, both in terms of getting more TVL and usage, as well as, of course, having great price appreciation in the token. Um, there are a few other ones, that I have. So Beam, which is the L2 that came out of Merit Circle, right, where I was an investor as well, and I still have a position in that. Um, and then generally, people can just look up my wallets on Nansen. That's probably the best way to track what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's cool. And can you share as well what are your expectations from the market for the next months?
Yeah, so I find it very difficult to make predictions like in the near term, right? I think the on a long enough time horizon, it is pretty much up only for all the quality assets of crypto, things like Bitcoin, ETH, and I think the very top NFT brands like Pudgy Penguins and CryptoPunks probably as well. In the near term, like I said, I think we are. I mean, I've been saying this for a while, but I think now it's like actually happening. Web3 games, I think, will start taking off probably this half of the year, and it could be quite soon in some cases, like in the next weeks and months. Um, I do think tokenized T-bills are just going to continue to grow as well. That's not something that you can kind of get exposure to necessarily. I mean, there might be some ways to get exposure or like make some directional bets on it, but that's just an overall area that I think is gonna do pretty well. It might be just steadily continue to grow, and generally, I think there's a very clear multi-chain and multi-layered future, and so engaging with new L2s using new chains, and in many cases you get rewarded for that through airdrops and so on, is probably a good idea. And it's also frankly like a good way to just stay on top of what's happening in crypto, because some of these chains and L2s are going to become massive. We just don't know which ones. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts in the next month.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you for the great conversation.
My pleasure. Happy to come back anytime.